Hi, everyone, and welcome to the last day of NAB and the last panel at the Creator Lab. So you're seeing the last programming and we're ending with a bang, which is really exciting. We're doing a panel on Beyond Audiences Building Community with France from Creator Gold, Yak from Influential, Uptin, a creator and founder, and then Matt, who's editor-in-chief of The Shortcut. So let's welcome them to the stage. Thank you, guys.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the last day of show. We know it's 10 a.m. and a lot of you guys partied last night, right? Show of hands who went out. I know I did, right? So anyway, thank you for showing up. And good morning to you all. We want to switch the conversation. And by the way, you are attending the most important conversation on the show floor today. So thank you. Here's the question I want you guys to sit with. How many people follow you versus how many people would actually show up for you? So think about that as creators, like how many follow you and how many will show up. That gap, that's what we're here to talk about today. The creator economy is shifting, not from big to small, from old to new, but from reach to resonance. I'm France Tantiado. I have the privilege of moderating Beyond the Audience, Building Community. And I want to introduce you guys to three amazing people. By the way, these chairs are so comfortable, but I'm short, so I can't sit back. So right here, we have Yak. He sits at the intersection of creators and brands, which means he sees both sides of the table, the art of a deal. And right now, he's creator innovation lead at Influential. Here's Yak. Uptin. Uptin is a storyteller, you guys. He has over 3 million followers who built his brand at the intersection of tech, culture, and money. He recently sold his UGC company to Augustus Media, proof that he's just not a creator. He builds communities and he builds businesses. That's Uptin right in the middle. And then we have Matt. Matt is a journalist and creator who didn't just cover the media industry. He built his own lane and inside it. Founder and editor-in-chief, The Shortcut. There's Matt. I'm going to start off the first question for all three of you guys. We keep hearing the shift is from reach to resonance. From your own experience, when did you first realize follower count was the wrong thing to obsess over? Who wants to take it first?
I got it.
Okay.
All right. So follower count. I've noticed this when I was actually going up in follower count and people were messaging me saying, I joined Twitter, it was Twitter at the time, because of you. And that sounds like a great compliment. For me, that freaked me out a little bit because they could not come back. That was a platform they were not necessarily on. So I realized engagement is so much more important to keep those people around and keep them following and keep them liking what I'm posting rather than having that special number up there. So engagement resonance is so much more important than having 1 million followers if they're not engaging.
Thank you. Matt, very strong.
Yeah, I think for me, very early on in 2020, just joining TikTok made me realize that, because the thing about TikTok, and this happens to me every month, is I'll have a video that gets over 1 million views, but if you look at a video before or after that, it maybe has 5 or 10,000. And at first it was really unnerving, right? But then you kind of learn that the algorithm is like walking into a casino and putting your money down. You don't really know what's going to happen, right? You could lose, you could win a lot. And so I kind of built that into the psychology of being a creator. It's like the follower count is cool. It'll build social proof when you're meeting people and getting brand deals. But at the end of the day, the algorithm rewards each individual piece of content for being really good or really, really bad. And it's good and bad, right? You can be someone with 100 followers, but you can go really viral regardless of your follower count. So you got to just kind of see it as an opportunity for everyone.
Thank you. And from the brand guy, let's hear that.
So coming from the agency brand perspective, I think of it as an and versus an or. So there's value in the follower count for a bunch of reasons. It tells us that there's somebody interested. It tells us that a creator has been building their community and building their follower, which means that they have a passion and a direction and some quality in terms of what they're doing. And you guys have seen that for sure in everything you've built, right? It didn't just happen. You built it over time, and you get a certain amount of a process built in and approach, and your audience then reacts to that. So follower count to me matters a lot. But what that does is that's the starting point to the question of why. Meaning, if we thought authenticity mattered a lot, which it does, why it matters is because the more you post and the more you are developing and curating, cultivating a community, the more those followers are going to stay connected, stay loyal. And so then you spend your time diving into why that is the case. So why does that community matter to you? Why does it matter to them? What's the symbiotic relationship? What are the behaviors that are driving that? And as we look at where brands are going, it's based on the audience, right? So the audience is expecting something different. So the brands need to follow that experience.
Great. Thanks so much. One sentence each, you guys. What does community actually mean to you in your workday? I'm going to start off with Matt.
I would say recognizing the names that are coming in to say chat or your comments on a routine basis and kind of welcoming them. Sometimes they have crazy names. It's like, oh, I see Mr. Spaghetti Head join the chat, right? If you see that on a consistent basis, that is a good sign for community.
Great. Thank you.
To me, it's feeling like you're their friend. So you will never see me on any videos say, hey guys, right? Because immediately when you say, hey guys, it establishes like I'm on stage and there's a bunch of you in the audience. It's always like you and I tell this to new creators, like speak as if you're talking to a single individual on the other side of the screen, because you are.
That's a really, really great point. From a brand perspective, I think that it ends up being around the concept of evolution and opportunity. So audiences, if they are what matters most in this entire experience, and they're what drive what's happening, right? You react to that to some degree. Then brands have to recognize that and think through. All right, community. What community means is that that there's an evolution. Follower isn't just the only thing. We have to go deeper. Which means there's a greater opportunity to create a better experience between brand, creator, and audience. So I think what community is doing is telling us, all right, we've gotten over the scale hurdle, which we needed to do to show that this was valuable. And now we need to dive into the depth of and the focus of why. And that all has to do with community.
Great. Thanks. Okay. A lot of creators say they have community, but what they really have is comments. I know you talk about comments a lot. What does it actually take to build something that lives beyond the feed? Uptin, let's start with you. Beyond the feed.
I think being able to, I think your stories are a really good opportunity for that. So like for me, my content on Instagram, on YouTube is it's mostly scripted. Sometimes I'll just start yapping. But it's mostly scripted. There's B-roll, there's music, there's subtitles, right? It's a story that I've thought about and curated. But beyond that, to really create that sense of like community and that parasocial relationship with someone, I think that's where stories are a really good opportunity to be much more casual, much more in the moment, much more I'm here, I'm there. I think also, it's interesting. We have 9 minutes in and no one said the word AI or the letters AI. Yeah. But when you do think about differentiating yourself from AI as a creator, it's important to go to events. It's important to be out and about. I know too many creators who just kind of, you only know them from in their studio in their basement. You'll never even see them out at a mall or at a coffee shop or at a beach or at a conference. And I think it's important to show yourself there, show yourself out and about meeting with people, because then to the audience's perspective, they can envision themselves seeing you out in events and make them feel more connected to you.
I was going to add to this. It actually also matters for brands, because if you're a brand, there's a limit if the creator doesn't have an existence outside of their studio, if you will, right, wherever they're creating content. If they normally go out if they have experiences, then as a brand, you can do more with them because there's a natural inclination to do so, and it's built into what they've developed already, right? So otherwise, you're limited to whatever, if we're going to be authentic, and then they're limited to whatever they've created as their community.
Yeah. Ideally, segmenting. I like this strategy of expanding beyond just your usual content type, right? But I've always cautioned myself on trying to comment on, say, sports when I'm doing tech, right? Because yes, it humanizes you a little bit. You're watching the big game with everybody else, but at the same time, I got really bad feedback when people were like, I just tune in for gaming and tech from you. So it is a tough balance. I think the opportunity for community versus just getting comments is it turns into community when people start answering other people's questions, right? And it becomes this revolving thing where it's not just me. So that's where I find community to be something on the shortcut where I call my followers the undecided voters of tech. They're always asking questions and they're always answering each other's questions. And that's where I was like, that is community right there.
That's right. That's right. So going to that, trust is easy to say, hard to build, but even harder to measure. How does trust actually look like in practice? And have you ever broken it by accident? Who wants to take that?
Well, for me, my background is a journalist at CNBC, and I think that a lot of that stayed with me as a creator. Like I've had, huge creators with 20, 30 million followers tell me like, your videos are good, but you need to be more opinionated. You need to say this is really bad. This is really good. And I do that to an extent, but for the most part, I want my audience to trust me to provide information so that they can make their opinion. And so the thing that kind of stings the most for me right now is getting a comment like clearly sponsored, right? Especially when it wasn't sponsored. So but I learned from that, right? Like I did a piece on Qatar's economy, and I got a couple comments saying like great PR piece for Qatar. So then when I did my Bahrain piece, I made sure to be a little more critical, and even sometimes it's just swapping one or two words where you're like, you're just much more neutral or critical. And then we just posted it a couple days ago and I saw not a single comment, accuse me or thought that it was sponsored. So I think learning from the comments to ensure that your audience is trusting you, because for every one person who's accusing you of doing a sponsored piece or whatever, for a government especially, who knows, maybe there's 1,000 or 10,000 people of the viewers who thought the same but didn't comment.
That's true. Good point. Do you have anything to add, Jock, on that one?
No, I think you do.
Yeah. Transparency is the ultimate form of communication when it comes to, those sponsored posts versus native posts. And I started seeing creators mention at the end of their reviews for tech products, we got the device in. You don't need to say that necessarily in all cases, but they said this is the first time that anybody from that company has seen it, so they don't have brand approval. And they I'm thinking of Mr. Mobile, a tech YouTuber specifically. He started putting that in his videos, and it's like, oh, okay, now I feel safe, right? That no brand has approved this messaging. It's all coming from his mouth and his brain.
I'll add on to that. The trust piece to this is so important from a brand perspective. They just don't realize it most of the time. And I think that it is incumbent upon creators to make that clear. And I think one of the ways you do that is kind of where you're going to is asking why there's an interest, because you have to continue to create trust with your audience. You don't build it once and then it stays forever. Every time you post, you're adding to it or you're subtracting from it. And so if a brand is going to be involved in that, they have to understand why and what you're doing to keep that trust.
You guys, I'm going to go to this question and tell me if it's repetitive to what you guys just answered. But what actually builds trust today and what quietly breaks it?
I'm going to jump in from a brand perspective while you guys are thinking through this.
Sure.
I think that what breaks it fastest is when and I see this a lot. I've seen in the past, not as much as now, but when a brand says, "I really want this," and they put enough money in front of the situation, and they push hard enough, and there's always a list of do's and don'ts, which is really important to the brand and to protecting the creator. All those are important. But during that, if it's lost as to how it's going to fit in with what the creator typically would do, what the audience expects, then it breaks. And when it breaks, it hurts the brand and it hurts the creator. And so it's so important in that process that you find a way to create some symbiotic relationship and then not just say, I got it, you want this, I'm going to go do that. Because that's just not where we are anymore.
Yeah, picking up on that, knowing when to turn down the sponsorship, even at the last minute, have an out in your contract if you have a contract, because there was a device called the Rabbit R1, right? And it just didn't work. It was an AI pocket handheld device and it didn't work. And there was about 3 creators who were gushing about this thing. And it's like, clearly that was sponsored and you didn't use the product, or you used the product and said, you know what? I'm accepting the money regardless. If that was me, if that was the case, I would have to be either say to the brand, hey, I got to be honest, this thing does not work and I have to put that in my video, or say, you can take the money back. Because like there's a tipping point, and that was it for me where I'm like, that should have been something that creators realized.
Yeah, I think for me, so CES is a big time of year for me. My team and I do maybe 50 to 60 videos in that 1 week. And one of the best lines I think that I can say in the video is, "This is stupid," because that builds trust, right? And there are some dumb things you see, right? I mean, most of it's pretty cool. Some of it's, medium. And then you see some things you're like, this is dumb, right? And so, and I like to say that I give like a fair review, like, okay, I see what they're trying to do here, but I think this is dumb. Why would people do this? And I love, and I never, I maybe say it in 2 or 3 videos at most of the 60, but some stuff you just see and you're like, this is kind of dumb. I want to cover it, but I want to like be very honest. And that I think really builds trust with your audience, knowing that you're going to call BS.
Right.
But you don't do it in a way, watching your content, you don't do it in a way that makes the
product or brand
or the followers, the audience, think that if they have a different opinion, then therefore they have to keep. You do it in a way that goes, this is my thought on it.
Yeah.
I'd love your, like, there's a bit of I love your opinion on it.
Yeah.
And your approach, which allows me to go, hey, actually I disagree, which increases the community because now I have room to say something.
That's true.
This is how it is. Yeah. Sorry, too bad.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that. Sometimes I'll say, maybe it's just me, but, and right, like as an audience, you might actually be like, no, it's genius. You're an idiot, and that's great. Like, let's have a discussion.
We struggle with that all the time in tech reviewing. There may be a certain product where this is not right for me or the majority of people, but there may be a niche out there that is loving that product. And we struggle with that in ratings, right? It may be a 10 out of 10 for a phone product. If you haven't upgraded your phone in 2-3 years, it's the perfect device. But if you had last year's phone, that's not a 10 out of 10 for you. That's a skip. So we struggle with that because everybody loves the score. Everybody loves the review score, the ratings. So we have to kind of like parse that for the audience and be transparent with them about it. So if they read further into the review, they'll know that there's a little more narrowly focused content for them.
Yock, thank you. Yock, this is for you. From a brand perspective, are brands truly valuing community yet, or are they still stuck on reach? And what signals actually tell you a creator has genuine community versus large but passive audience? I think a lot of us struggle with this question.
So the first part, are brands there yet? Yes, but, and I think that we have to start with the recognition that scale is always going to matter. Its follower count is always going to matter. If no one sees it, it doesn't matter how good it is. And we've all learned that as creators and creatives at some point.
Interesting. So, but what if you have 40 million and just 2 million active? Are you still good with that?
So that first part is a scale for sure. The second part is exactly what you're just talking about, which is, all right, what is the actual communication between the creator and their followers? Is it regular? Is the engagement simply a like? Are there comments? Are there comments on comments? Are there shares? What is happening that makes look like the creator is actually engaging with their audience versus talking to? You mentioned that as such a great point. It's not a, hey guys, I'm coming to you, I'm going to tell you everything. It's, this is what I'm seeing, and then open up the conversation. And I think that if we bring it to the brands from that perspective, then it matters. But I think that the way you have to do that is, I mean, it takes a while to build a contract with a creator, right? First you got to go find them. Then you have to decide this is the right creator. Then you have to get the brand to agree. Then you go to the creator and you start cutting the deal, right? And the legal. And so what really matters in that situation is how fast you can get to the end. So having a technology or tool that does a lot of the discovery for you, that looks at brand safety, that does all the background stuff, AI helps significantly. So that way brands have the time to then say, and the team that's helping them have the time to dig into the actual creator's feed and go, I see what they're doing here. And then what I always recommend to every brand and every talent team is let the creator know why you chose them. And I always tell the creator, ask the agency or the brand why they chose you. And you get to a really good place where like, I get it now. Or no, you misunderstood completely where I'm going with, and that's okay. But if you don't ask the question, then there's an acceptance without any real guarantee.
That's such an easy step to forget about. And I need to go back and do that. That makes a lot of sense. How'd you find me and why'd you pick me?
Yeah, exactly. Since you brought up AI, it's not in our question, but what AI tool do you use to discover? What are your favorite AI tools to build community, to discover talent? What are, since AI is such a big part of our culture now?
So for me, it's a little easier. So Influential and Captivate came together under Publicis. The Captivate technology is a really powerful technology. If I wasn't there, I would tell you the same thing, because I did a lot of digging before deciding to come to that team. And one of the biggest reasons was the depth of the technology, the use of AI. And so that tool goes in and looks at followers, audiences, the breakup from a demo perspective, the content, the type of content, the tone, meaning like what's the ethos of what's going on in these conversations. Has a creator worked with another brand before? What's that relationship been like? Engagement and brand safety, not just from a social perspective, but did something happen 15 years ago that's buried in a blog somewhere that we need to know about, because the brand, someone's going to find it. And so I think that I'm fortunate because this tools are developed, and I spend my time digging into that to help understand. But there are a lot of tools out there. It's just a question of how fast, how deep they want to go, and who's supporting them. I think that from your perspective, I'd be curious. Agents, if you're working with a brand and you're going through an agency or with a brand, the team that you end up having to work with day to day and their experience level with working with a talent like you, getting things moving, working with legal, that matters, because anybody who hasn't had that experience, who can't help guide you and listen to your feedback, that slows down the process, or just say stops it, is my guess.
Yeah, I absolutely. It's just to talk about AI. We have a love-hate relationship with AI. The tools are great on one hand, but while we may use them for everything but writing, the writing aspect for it is controversial in the tech journalism world.
Of course.
And especially for breaking news, you look at the Apple News is usually broke by a guy at Bloomberg named Mark Gurman, right? If I just say, oh, write me this piece, it's just going to use synonyms for his exact piece, because there's a finite amount of sources, versus if we're talking about the history of NAB, there's probably a lot of sources out there that have talked about the show, and it collates them, and you couldn't really detect that. And, whether or not that's right is, a different matter. But with breaking news, there's a finite amount of sources. So we can't use it for writing breaking news content or any of our content. But on the periphery of it, I like your example of looking up, if an agency has worked with a creator before. Same thing on our end, right? Who are the top creators that have worked with this brand before? What have they done? And was that brand really liked? So, research purposes, it may be scraping content that we don't like, but in those cases, it's content that saves us a lot of time. So it's a double-edged sword for us. And if we're using it in the right ways, we're going to save time and money.
The tools that I'm using, so I'm using Claude and ChatGPT for a lot of fact checking on my scripts. I'm using vidIQ has been really good for me, actually, for ideating, especially YouTube, right? Because I do a weekly YouTube. I have a full-time editor just editing my YouTube, And so with TikTok, some videos take 2 minutes, some take 2 hours. But you're just pumping out a lot of short form content. But when it comes to my YouTube, I put a lot of time and money into each video. So if I pick a topic where I think anecdotally that it's going to perform well and it flops, like that costs me, right? And not just because, it didn't perform well, but even a brand might come back and say, oh, you have all these, your average YouTube video is getting 50K views, but you have this one that got 12K, so we want to offer you less money because what if we get the 12K, right? So vidIQ has been great to bounce ideas off of and be like, it'll analyze your channel and say, hey, this is working really well for you. You're, this one performed well, that one performed well. This is trending right now. This is really being searched a lot on YouTube. So I like vidIQ. I like Opus Clip, which will take my long form, let's say 10-minute YouTube video and give me 3 to 5 cuts. And it also uses AI. So it's not just saving me time and editing, staffing, but also telling me like using AI, which ones it'll think will perform the best. And then the last one I only started using about a month ago. It's called repurpose.io. And I love this one because it'll just take my TikToks and it'll post them as trial reels on Instagram, 5 a day. So then I can just go every day into my trial reels like, oh, this one's really going, performing well. I want to send that to my main. And it can do both your new TikToks as well. You can give it like, hey, take all my TikToks from 2024 and post them as trial reels. And that's been great.
I love that. Sure. And then we have to look at time.
Okay, sorry. Do you use any AI to go back to what you've done in the past and then say, hey, this is my next one. Go back and look at it. Are there certain things that I have not included on the highest performing ones that I should be thinking about? Because I think that's an interesting approach as well.
Yeah, sort of. I think vidIQ kind of is doing that already automatically, but yeah, it's good. And sometimes I'll go to vidIQ and be like, oh, I want to do this video. And then it'll be like, no, like it's not gonna perform. I'm like, okay.
That's like a robot.
It's become my boss, yeah.
By the way, they said we could have a little bit more time. So if we go over, that's okay. But I'm going to switch it up. We're going to do lightning round, short answers, real talk, and quick. Okay. So, most overrated, we're going to start with you. Most overrated metric in the creator economy right now. Go.
Likes.
Next.
Likes as well.
I would say follower count.
Great. Okay. One platform you think is underestimated for building community. I'll start with you, Matt.
I would say X, not just because I have 850,000 on there, but because it allows you to post links in some cases directly in the feed. You don't have to go to link in bio.
Great.
I'll say LinkedIn. I know a lot of us in the creator world already know it's booming and popping and stuff, but I still think like your average person or new creator is not excited or bullish on LinkedIn. And so that's why I would say it's underrated.
I agree with both of those, but I would add Snap. Because of the fact it's the only platform that was built off of a chat. And so Snap creators are creating sometimes 100 posts a day, which is a completely different experience. And their audiences are expecting that kind of constant communication. And so, yeah, if that's what you're looking for, then Snap.
I love Snap. Okay, next one. Bear with me here. The biggest mistake you see creators make when you try to monetize their community. Uptin?
The biggest mistake is they try too quickly to get brand deals, and they'll take a few $100 or something to do just to say they did a brand deal, and it's too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, space it out, right? With whether you're new or you're old doing brand deals. Sometimes we can detect a video, and there's certain creators out there where every single video is a brand deal, and it's like, give me some real authentic content in addition to make your money, but have authentic content as well.
And I would say then that the authenticity has to remain whether you are doing a brand deal or not. Meaning, if your brand asset or content is significantly different than what you're doing otherwise, then it's not going to work at all, right? Okay. So you got to lean into what you're passionate about, and what you've been building from the start.
Great. Okay, finish this sentence. Okay, this is. The future of creator economy belongs to creators who
stand up for themselves.
Oh, love that.
Post daily and learn from data.
Like brushing your teeth, guys. I never post.
I would say pivot, right? You have to go with the wind. Right now, I was going to say, the kind of like the FaceTime videos that people are doing, talking to camera, those are really hot right now, but that could change at any moment. So pivot, pivot, pivot.
Got it. Okay. One word that describes what community means, and only to you, only one word.
What does community mean?
What does community mean to you?
Opportunity.
Friends.
I would say, one word, I would say increase engagement, right? 2 words, but yeah.
Okay, great. This is our last, and then we'll take questions if possible. What's the single best signal a brand should ask for you to know a creator has real community? What's the single best signal a brand should ask for you to know that creator has a real community?
I think it's 2. I think it's a multiplier. One is followers. You have to have followers to start this process. But 2, I think you mentioned it, Matt, the comments, not just coming from one person, but commenting to each other. I think that absolutely, if you see that, you're like, okay, it's just taking on a different world.
I think if you see comments where people are giving ideas, like, can you go to this country? Can you do a video about the new, OpenAI news? That's a good sign that they're a loyal community.
I kind of touched on this earlier. Our comment section is the undecided voters of tech, right? There's so many websites out there that are very opinionated, and they'll say, I like Lenovo or I like Apple. They've already decided. But if they're asking questions in the comments, that is the ultimate, field rich way for a sponsor to say, oh, we want to influence that content.
Great. Well, thank you, you guys. We're going to open it up. We actually have no more minutes, but I'm going to open it up. If we can have like 2 questions from the audience. Sure.
Coming on over with the mic right behind you. Here you go.
Hi. So I feel like, obviously a lot of the focus was on, how to build that audience or how to tell when the audience is being built. I was wondering for any of you on the creator side, once you have built that audience and you have that kind of established goodwill, how has that, if it has affected your content directly? Obviously, you can have consultants affect your content or whatever, but how has having that, built goodwill with the audience affected your content going forward as opposed to worrying about growing it?
You always want to see what they are desiring next, right? Because I got to a million followers based on PS5 restocks. Well, guess what? The PS5 is really easy to get right now. So I really needed to pivot and find out and research, and AI tools help out with this, what they want next. So looking for the next big thing.
Great. Should we take the next question?
Let's do it. Here you go.
Thank you. I'm in a very small market, in Bermuda, so 60,000 people, and follower count is not really that important. They really focus on impact, right? Measure impact. So if it's 10 people in your community, are those 10 people going to purchase my shirt, or are they going to come choose my pharmacy? How do you, I guess my question is, we still want to grow. We want to get more people as part of the community, but follower count is not a selling point for us.
Right.
What can we do?
I'm going to let you guys take that.
I'll start. I think engagement obviously matters. We talk about this a ton. So part of community isn't necessarily scale; it's the activity that goes along with whatever's being posted. I think that's a really important piece to this. I think the second is that I think the funnel still exists. I think the funnel is still a very important thing. So there is a difference between awareness through to purchase, and I think that there are different telltale signs that you are moving somebody down that path. And I think no matter what it is, you just have to identify what those are. And then your measuring point's not the same. The reason I said likes don't matter is that tell me where the value lies in moving everybody from the top to the bottom. And every section is not going to have the same measuring point. So I think if you start to identify what you're measuring that matters to you, that's going to move somebody from the top to the middle of the bottom, then at least you have something you can work against.
Great. Do you guys have any ads to that? Matt?
I think I was summed up.
Okay, great. Any other questions in the panel? There's another question,
One more.
RJ, and then we'll wrap up.
Get my steps in. Here you go.
Thanks. I'm just curious. Lots of wisdom here today, so I appreciate you all. I'm not a full-time creator, and I know that presents a lot of challenges. But I'm just curious, your all's tips for the best way to build community when you're not posting every day, because there's a variety of challenges associated with that.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys take this because I don't post. I'm same.
I think you have to put in the time and effort into research, right? Because if you're not posting on that particular day, it's like being a sports athlete. You might not be on the field, but you're training, right? So,
Wait.
The other question just to overall, take risks, take really dramatic, big risks. Because every time I've done that, give you a very brief story. My first freelance piece for Tech Radar before I got a full-time job there, was reviewing Google Glass. Cost me $1,500. I only got paid $500 for it, right? That is an awful deal, but it got me a full-time job in the end. And I was there for 9 years, became the U.S. editor-in-chief. So without standing out for that job application that came up, I wouldn't have had that job.
Yeah, I would say actually to maybe audit your workflow, because a lot of people think that you need to spend so much energy in a video, but I've heard this so many times. I heard this last night that it's like the videos that I spend the least amount of time on perform the best. So he mentioned yapping. The yapping style, the yapping format is really doing well right now, where it's literally taking out your phone, talking. You maybe talk for 3 minutes, you edit it down into a 45 second. Maybe you talk for 45 seconds and you post the 45 seconds. So like if you can start to think of your content, your short form videos, the same with the same low level of friction of posting an Instagram story, then you really have no reason not to post at least 5 times a week.
I think I'd start with I agree with both of these completely. Get both of you guys. I also start with the recognition that if you don't post all the time and you don't have a big follow account, that gives you a lot of room to learn. And so I think that yes, it matters to take risks, but also to stay consistent. So there's got to be, I think audiences recognize when you have a passion. If you don't, then they're trying to figure out how they fit in. They want to align with somebody and they want you to be successful. Everyone that follows these guys follows them because they want them to be successful. They're curious. They're interested. So figure out what that is and then start building toward that. That'll drive you to build the process that you need. It'll drive you to a lot of things you don't want to do otherwise. And then you're more comfortable taking risks.
Thank you. We went 10 minutes over. Sorry, you guys, but I knew there was another panel. Thank you so much. I'm France Tantiado, who was your moderator. We've got Yock, Uptin, and Matt. And Matt made it here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.